It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, you beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Yes, time to chat to the parents. Never before has the chase for perfection and appearance, and I stress that, the appearance of perfection to the rest of the world has never been as prevalent than it is in our current culture. And it's a bit of a problem that's affecting our children as well. Who's driving it? Well, we're going to hopefully establish that right now with our registered counsellor and very good friend, Shanaz Moas. She joins us to give her insights into this pattern of behaviour. This is really interesting. First of all, good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I luckily don't suffer from perfectionist children. I have moments of that. I think I get it from my mom's side, possibly. I remember you admitting to being a recovered perfectionist. How's it going? Have you fallen off the wagon?
No, it's been good, you know. I'm following my 12-step program. I'm just keeping it
I watch you
real.
fluff these pillows every now and then and rearrange, and I'm like, okay, just leave it. Just leave it. What is driving this? Is it a personal thing? Is it a societal thing? I think to start on a very broad basis. Are you just born like that, like a Shanaz, where you are just destined to be a perfectionist? Or is it something that is driven by our parents? Is it culture? Is it social media? What is the big driver at the moment, do you think?
I think that it used to be mostly parents and the environment they created by being perfectionists themselves.
Yeah.
But currently, I think it's society-driven, social media. It's a combination of things, which is why it's worse than it's ever been before.
Because we can't control that space.
Yeah.
And I think we can't, ultimately, especially teenagers, adolescents, they're going to have access to that space. And it's going to start creeping in. So when should we become worried? I'm kind of thinking of my own son, just looking at the patterns in his behavior. When should you start to worry that your child is drifting into that obsessive space or an unrealistic perception of what is possible?
Yeah, I think at that age you should look at not wanting to try new things, that for fear of failure. So a lot of kids don't actually try because they just know they may not get it right, or they become frustrated easily.
Okay.
So it's like a meltdown over everything and the words I can't and I give up and I don't want to and, So you can't tell the difference. Sometimes that's a normal tantrum, but I'm talking about like repetitive, sort of chronic.
Yeah.
It's happening a few times a day in school setting, in home setting. So it's kind of happening everywhere.
So it's obviously something worth talking to your child's teachers about. How do we then govern that space and ensure that, first of all, we've got our own issues in check when it comes to that, but to make sure that this isn't an influence in our child's life? How do we start to offset the messaging that's coming in en masse from social media and from within that social space?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have to first monitor ourselves, like myself, not knowing I was a perfectionist while having unrealistic standards for my kids and everyone around me. So I had no idea which is where the anger came from. So a lot of angry, frustrated kids are often perfectionists. A lot of anxious kids.
Like a lot of angry adults.
Yeah, so the environment at home, your standards, what you model. When you make a mistake, do you beat yourself up or do you have self-compassion? Do you model and say, oh, that was so silly of me. We all make mistakes. So, that not, oh, you stupid idiot, how could you, that's your self-talk, which your child, your child's now watching. Yeah.
But surely you want them to be the best version. Surely they must do everything to the best of their ability. Surely we're striving for that, that perfect end result. We don't want mediocre children, do we?
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? All of that striving leads to children breaking under the pressure. So it's academic pressure, it's sport pressure, it's all kinds of pressure.
And they feel it, eh?
Yeah.
What was the result? What did you notice and what woke you up? Was your wake-up call with realizing that you were putting too much pressure on your children? What effect can that have on our kids?
Actually, it affects kids when they don't want to socialize anymore. They actually fear either being rejected or not fitting in, and then academic pressure. So kids, when you get a good mark, it's great, but you shouldn't define the child's worth by the mark, because that's when kids struggle, when they link the two. I'm only worthy when I, get the highest mark, or I come first in class. So that you know, but at the time when you're in it, you have no idea because you're unconscious and you are still,
in the thick of it,
you
yeah.
know, you're still on that hamster wheel of perfection. You have, you know, you've drunk the Kool-Aid, you are wanting that perfect child, like a little badge, you know, that little badges you wear. So that's what drives a lot of people to push kids to perfection, to use the child as a trophy and brag to other parents.
Because we all are comparing. We are comparing life, we are comparing our breakfast cereal, we are comparing our appliances on social media. Everything gets compared, so it stands to reason that our children do as well. I'm really interested in how we start to educate and protect our children from that social media space in particular. So we'll delve a little deeper into that. Maybe you are a perfectionist. Maybe your children are perfectionists, and it's something that needs to be addressed right now because it can have quite devastating consequences. Stick around.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Yes, Shanaz is still in the house, and we are talking to our parents and I suppose to our children to an extent. We live in a culture that promotes the chase for perfection and at least the appearance of that. But is perfectionism healthy, or to what extent is it? Well, we're continuing the discussion now with our registered counsellor and good friend Shanaz Moos. This is a really interesting one because there are some positive elements there. It's almost like too much of a good thing. So we want to strike a healthy balance. We want our children to strive to be the best version of themselves, to coin a social media phrase, but we don't want it to become dangerous. A lot of that pressure, I suppose we could call it the modern day peer pressure, is coming from social media, from parents posting images of their perfect life, and also, I suppose, to an extent, other children, their peers, actually posting like that. How do we then guide them through the social media space? How do we enable them? And I suppose this speaks to a broader conversation when it comes to online and social media, but how do we get them to a point where they can discern what's real and what's, you know, a fake representation of life?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, one of the first
Basically, Instagram is fake.
a lot of, and also what age are you giving your child access to? That would be they don't have that cognitive ability to even have the conversation at certain ages.
So when they're wearing those size 0.5 Nikes, they have no idea what brand of shoe they're wearing.
No, there's some kids who have their own social media accounts made by parents.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing with like, where can this go? It can go to really dark places, and a lot of teen suicides is linked to chronic, which is unhealthy perfectionism. A study was done in the States. So it sort of peaks, man. It starts off with this child wanting to help make the parents load less by being perfect. So they're hoping to make life less stressful. They see the parents are stressed, so I must always do, not my best, but an impossible standard. And that's where the anxiety sets in for kids, trying to reach this goal, constantly worrying that they can't, worrying that they'll disappoint. You know, they live with this day and night.
How do we strike that healthy balance then? Because we want our children, like we want for ourselves, to strive for the best, to achieve something incredible. We all want that. We want that sense of greatness in at least one area of our life, I suppose. And we want to foster that in our kids. So how do we find that healthy balance between push for your best, but don't have that expectation of perfection?
Because it all depends on the type of perfection, you know. There's some perfection which is other-orientated, where the child wants others to be perfect. Self-orientated, where I must be perfect. So the child places standards, high standards on themselves, unrealistic ones. But then there's society's prescribed, and that's what we're talking about here, where the parents, the school, the coach, all these people have set this limit for this child. They didn't ask for it. They struggle, they try. So this whole working together, man, the system of school and home and as a community, we should try to just, what is reasonable standards? What is doing your best? And that's where it's not realistic, that doing your best, that you keep saying, what is your best?
And I suppose it's in the context of the child, which means you've got to have an understanding of the emotional quotient, what's going on there, because you don't know, for one child, achieving something small that's really difficult for them is a massive achievement. Could be them really excelling in that space. I get that. Let's speak now to that parent that, and I'm realizing I always, whenever we talk, that I've been a terrible parent for most of my life. If we've made that mistake or we've gone too far, we are starting to see those signs emerging within our children and ourselves. and we're having this wake-up call right now. What are the words? What are the actions? What do we need to do to start to shift that narrative?
I think the first thing would be to focus on your child's effort. Praise effort. Praise the fact that I saw how hard you worked, not you've done well because you worked hard. No, the child may have worked hard and not done well. So I saw how hard you worked, and I'm proud of your effort.
Yeah.
The effort is what matters. Or praise your child for other traits, non-academic, non-sport. I like how kind you are. I admire your kindness towards your friends, towards your siblings. Those are the things we want to grow.
Start placing some importance on that.
Yeah, not only achievement, because that's currently most parenting models people employ in their home is achievement-based, even if they're not perfectionists. Can you tell the difference that when you achieve, you've proven that you're a good child and I'm a good parent?
And then for that poor parent who is a perfectionist, dyed in the wool, and has two children that are definitely not perfectionists, how do they survive in this world?
You know, if you're the perfectionist, it's almost as if you need to get help. Even though perfectionism isn't listed as a mental health disorder, it causes other mental health issues like anxiety, like depression. So you as a parent, if you are the undiagnosed perfectionist, you need to get help, you know. So in that, you'll help your kids automatically.
And it's always like that. Hold the mirror up to yourself and deal with it. Well, from a recovered perfectionist, thank you so much. The gospel truth. Hopefully you have picked up something, but at least just taken that moment to consider what pressure is being put on your child, whether it's coming from you or from society, social media. You, as the parent, need to be there to offset that. And I think bring in a bit more of the emotional conversation as well into this list of achievements and what we are capable of doing. But most importantly, just go and love your kids for who they are.